Namaskar. Today we delve into the mind of a visionary who is not just shaping the future of AI but also ensuring that this future benefits all. Artificial intelligence or AI is not just about machines and data, rather it's about how this technology can be harnessed to address some of the most pressing challenges that humanity faces today. In a world where technology seems very distant, Professor Milind Tambe is a beacon of hope who has demonstrated how AI can be leveraged for societal good. Professor Tambe is the professor of computer science at Harvard University and also the director of AI for Social Good project. Professor Tambe and his team have developed many pioneering initiatives, pioneering AI systems that has led to transformative and impactful changes in various sectors such as healthcare, public safety and conservation. He is the recipient of many awards such as Triple AI Award for Artificial Intelligence for the benefit of humanity. Professor Tambe, welcome to Sunset TV and thank you so much for talking to us.
I'm very grateful for this invitation, very much honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with this AI for Social Good project. Professor Tambe, can you tell us more about this research project that you are deeply involved with?
I have been focused on AI for social impact, advancing AI to achieve social impact for the past 18 years or so. Our focus has been on topics such as public health, conservation, and public safety, with a key challenge of how to optimize our limited intervention resources. I must say that AI for social good as a field emerged even though several of us were doing work in areas related to AI for social good. We didn't realize it was a field in its own right until 2016, when the White House here organized a series of workshops on AI, including one on AI for social good. And I was very fortunate to be involved in being one of the organizers of that. But that workshop was a catalyst, as a result of which a lot of universities started establishing centers on AI for social good. And that's how this area emerged. And I've been particularly focused, initially was particularly focused on public safety. And then conservation and public health has been the recent focus of my research group. I can get into some of the details of the projects that we've been involved in. I'll first start with giving a quick overview of the work that we've done outside of India, and later perhaps we can get into discussion of work that we've been doing in public health in India.
Sure, Professor Tambe will come to that, but I'm curious to know when you decided to work in the areas of public health, public safety and conservation. No doubt these are three very critical areas, but there are other areas as well where AI can be leveraged for social impact. So what criteria did you choose? What criteria did you have in choosing these three sectors?
In a sense, it's a combination of many factors. You're absolutely right that AI for social good also involves agriculture and education and so many other areas where AI can be highly beneficial for humanity. But there are certain criteria that we must have in order to be able to use AI with a particular government organization or non-governmental organization. One of the most important ones, of course, is whether the problem domain, the specific problem that we are looking at, has potential where AI can have an impact, where the problem really requires some kind of optimization or prediction or something where AI information can be useful. There are other criteria as well. The organization has to have data. It has to be data ready, in some sense AI ready. If we do develop an AI solution, they should be able to test it in the field. And if we do succeed, then they need to be able to scale it up. So there are all of these criteria that we use in trying to choose which organizations to work with. And ultimately, then it becomes a question of finding organizations that have all of these criteria met. And then once we find such an organization, which often is an issue of networking and so forth, then we don't want to engage in helicopter science. That is, we don't want to go in there, kind of write a paper or two and leave, but really get in there and really understand the problem. So once we get into a problem area, then of course it is a very long-term commitment. So in a sense, I'm suggesting that the three areas I selected are a factor, have come about precisely because of the problems they presented were very impactful. They had data, they had all the other capabilities to be able to pilot the solution and scale it up. So those were the reasons why we selected these areas at the time. But yeah, I mean, if organizations had come forward, or I'd be fortunate enough to network with organizations, let's say in education, that could have been an area. But these were three areas that came about as a result of happenstance, let's say. But once we selected these areas, then we did not want to abandon them and stay committed to them for a longer period of time.
Wonderful. Professor Tambe, I'm absolutely confident that going forward, there are other areas like agriculture, education, which will be impacted by your work. Now, coming back to the specific projects in the area of conservation, you and your team have developed innovative AI systems using machine learning and using game theory for anti-poaching activities, which has really attracted widespread applause. So, can you tell us more about this fabulous initiative?
The basic idea here is that we have large conservation areas to protect around the world, in many parts of the world, but very limited ranger resources. So rangers, maybe 100 rangers may be in charge of vast conservation areas of thousands of square kilometers. And then the question becomes, how do we most effectively use this limited resource? In our work, in Uganda, Cambodia, and other countries, our focus has been how can we use past poaching data? So poachers set traps or snares to trap, to maim, to kill elephants and giraffes and other magnificent wildlife. And these animals can become extinct if we don't really engage in trying to protect them. And so with that motivation, the question becomes, can we use this past data that has been recorded in detail by wildlife conservation organizations in order to predict where poachers may set traps or snares in the future? And so in Uganda, for example, we started this work in Murchison Falls National Park, Queen Elizabeth National Park, and other parks in Cambodia, for example, where using past data on where poachers had set traps or snares, and using other GIS information, distance to rivers, roads, villages of those traps, distance to the boundary of the park, the kind of vegetation was there. We can then use all of these covariates and these other pieces of data, along with the data on where the trap was set, to predict where poachers may set traps in the future. And so if we can make that prediction, then rangers can go and remove those traps before they can trap an elephant or giraffe and so forth. Our work with real testing in the field started in 2016 in Uganda, where we were able to predict in areas of Queen Elizabeth National Park, where rangers had not patrolled, that we could show in certain 9 square kilometer areas that if they patrolled, which they did, that they would find snares. Indeed, they found a poached elephant. So poachers were active in the area, they were killing elephants, but rangers had not patrolled there. And with our software, they were able to remove traps that would have killed elephants more. So once this pilot test was successful, after that, we did widespread tests in multiple national parks and showed that our techniques were able to improve the numbers of snares that were found. For example, in Cambodia, 5-fold increase in the number of snares that were found. And with that, now there is a challenge for us to actually integrate the software we built with a global software called SMART. So there is a software that gets used around the world by rangers. And so if we can integrate our AI software with theirs, then essentially all over the world, rangers can benefit from the AI software in being able to predict where poachers may attack by putting snares or traps. And by removing them, hopefully we will contribute to the important work that these rangers are doing around the globe. So that's the overall project. And we've been active in, like I said, Uganda, Cambodia, Belize, and we're very eager to contribute to the worldwide fight to try to protect endangered wildlife around the globe.
This is amazing, Professor Tambe. I'm a lawyer, Professor Tambe, and I use AI tools such as ChatGPT 4.0 and Gemini to draft petitions, to make written submissions. And most people actually associate AI with these tools, ChatGPT and Gemini. But you and your team have been leveraging AI to reduce maternal mortality. Basically, you are leveraging AI to save the lives of mothers. And in India also, there is a project, I think, that you have been involved with. So this is very fascinating and quite relevant for the global south. So I would like you to elaborate more on this.
Thank you very much. So we've been working with a nonprofit called Arman in India. We've been very grateful for this collaboration. It's a nonprofit that's active in 20 states in India, over 40 million beneficiaries. One of their programs, which harnesses the proliferation of cell phones throughout India, cell phones are so widely available. And so what they do is every mother who registers with their program, from the time the mother registers when she's pregnant all the way to the baby being 1 year old, they provide automated health messages. So this is one of their programs. They have other programs too. But in this program, basically, they are providing health information. Every week, they send a 2-minute automated health message. The message may be about taking more iron pills, taking more calcium supplements, getting a baby vaccinated once the baby is born. And they have shown in field trials that mothers who listen to these messages, 140 of these messages get delivered to these mothers through their mobile phone in the local language, Marathi, Gujarati, or what have you. If they listen to these messages, then there is a significant benefit to the health of the mother and the health of the baby compared to mothers who don't listen. So it is important for them to listen to these messages that come through, 140 of them, during pregnancy and after the baby is born. So where do we come in? Unfortunately, 30 to 40% of the mothers who register in the program drop out of the program, or they become low listeners. Arman has a call center from where they can call these mothers, live call, not a message, to try to motivate them to stay in the program, to explain to them the importance of listening to these messages, and understand why these mothers may not be listening and address their concerns. Sometimes maybe the messages are going in the wrong language and so forth. But the question becomes, if there's 200,000, 2 lakh mothers who are registered in the program, which they are, and they can only call 1,000 mothers per week, which 1,000 out of 2 lakh to motivate to do these live calls to? And that's where we came in, and in collaboration with Arman, throughout the development of our AI software, we provided predictions of which 1,000 mothers to call on a weekly basis, right, in order to motivate them to stay in the program. And so we showed through field trials that this led to a reduction. It cut the drop-off rate by 30%.
Okay.
So that many more mothers were listening to messages of taking more iron, taking more calcium, and really very gratifying to see that this may have benefited mothers and babies in the programs that
of course,
that are in Arman.
Of course. So this, sorry to interrupt you, Professor Tambe. You said you identify 1,000 mothers who the call center would call. So this is based on data. This is based on the available data, and you use AI tools to identify these 1,000 mothers.
That is correct. Okay. So we have passed the data from Arman, okay, on mothers' social demographic. We have completely, we don't have any identifiable information, but we have general information about particular mothers' age, income, education, things of that. No identifiable information, and their listening behavior over time. this week they listen to 30 seconds of the message. This week they listen to 5 seconds. This week they listen to 2 seconds or what have you. And so based on that, we can build a predictive model. So if in the past, mother of certain age, income, education, let's say age 26, income 5,000, education 5th grade, has a certain listening pattern in the past, then when a future mother of a similar socio-demographic features walks in, then we can make certain predictions for her as well.
Right.
And that's been the focus of our work. And I think the main...
Is this being implemented pan-India, or there are specific states, some particular states that this is being executed in?
So our first deployment was in Mumbai with the program that Arman had, that was Mumbai based. But following that, more recently, Arman is working with the government of India on a national program called Kilkari.
Yes.
And so we are very fortunate to be able to advise Arman on how to extend our AI solution. They are doing the work, but we are advising them how to take our AI solution and then apply it towards reducing, improving listenership or making Kilkari more accessible throughout. So that's something that we are engaged in at present.
Professor Tambe, reducing MMR, maternal mortality rate, and IMR are two major sustainable development goals, the SDGs, UN SDGs. So I really wish the very best to you and your team, and I hope that with your intervention, IMR and MMR in India you will be able to bring it close to zero. Thank you for this. Now, having worked in the social sector myself for a couple of years, I know it's really difficult to scale solutions. So scalability and sustainability are the two big words in bringing about social change. So, have you encountered? How do you plan to encounter these two challenges of scalability and sustainability in any of the work that you do?
I think the most important issue for us in all of the work we've done in AI for social good is deep partnership with the organization that we are working with. And we just spoke about Arman. And so the basic idea is make sure that it's not the case that we develop a solution in our ivory tower and then come present it. Because that generally means that the solution may not be sustainable, it may not be scalable, because often there are data limitations, often there are compute limitations. I mean, these are organizations that must work within their limits of their own resources. And so this is something we are very careful about, how to build solutions that are appropriate for the current data. In fact, I say that this area of AI for social good, it also leads to innovations in AI. And some of the key innovations that arise are because these organizations that we work with are often limited in terms of the compute. I mean, they're not, they don't have availability of massive amounts of compute power, massive amounts of data. I mean, there's lots and lots of data, but still there are limitations. And so being able to work in deep partnership with this organization is important. I mentioned earlier this issue of helicopter science, and I want to emphasize that we want to be sure that we come in and work with this organization from beginning to end. And this allows us to build a solution that is deployable, that is scalable, and it can be sustained. But essentially, we need deep partnership, and without deep partnership, if we come in as AI researchers with a particular favorite AI technique, we must use, say, ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever it is, for a particular solution, no matter what the problem is, then that doesn't work. It has to be problem-centered thinking. It has to be an issue where we first understand what is the pain point and then develop a solution that fits the problem. And so with those ideas, we found that we can develop solutions that are scalable, that are sustainable. But you are correct that this is really a huge challenge, and it requires a lot of thinking in order to make sure it works.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah, Professor Tambe, Prime Minister Modi often talks about learning from good practices elsewhere. I'm curious to know what have been some of your learnings, some of the challenges that you have faced, and the lessons that you have learned from them while implementing this AI solutions or these AI systems in India or in Uganda. And the reason I ask you this is because there are these are challenges which are similar across the globe, particularly in the global south. So maybe there are some lessons that we can learn from these individual initiatives and then replicate it elsewhere. So if you could share some of the challenges and learnings, that would be great for the audience.
Absolutely. I feel that AI for social good in some ways is an area of AI of its own. It is not the same as, it requires that we don't train students just in core AI and then say, hey, you can impact social sector. There need to be some learnings that are specific to being able to do AI for social good. Some of the points here are certainly, as I mentioned, that AI for social good requires innovation in AI. In fact, AI innovation and social good often go hand in hand. It is not as though we take, solutions just off the shelf and apply. A second point I mentioned is we have to be in AI for social impact entirely committed to data to deployment. We just discussed scalability and sustainability. So it can't be the case that we are just interested in the AI portion of it. We need to start understanding the pain point from what kind of data is available and all the way to being able to deploy and test the solution in the field. So this whole data to deployment end-to-end perspective is important. The third is that in many of these cases, lack of data is actually the norm. So we are supposed to be in this world where there's big data, everywhere there's data, we're swimming in data. But in several cases, for example, in the wildlife conservation case I mentioned in Uganda, there is data, but it's not tons and tons of data. So we need to find approaches that will deal with, some limitations in the amount of data that are available by sometimes sampling and so on.
Yeah.
I mentioned the need for AI researchers to go out of the lab into the field, build that deep partnership, engage in interdisciplinary work.
Absolutely.
And then finally, and also, just partnership. That is the main three things really. In order to be, you have so much experience in the social sector and you know this very well. But for AI researchers, it is important to understand that, being able to engage in AI for social good is not just, doing AI research in the lab, but it really requires being in the field, really talking to the partners in depth.
Collaboration with all the stakeholders. And yes. Absolutely. That's the key for the success of this AI for social impact initiative. Absolutely. Professor Tambe, I would definitely like to pick your brain on a topic which is in everyone's mind really, AI and ethics. There are concerns about ethical issues such as data privacy, inequity. On the one hand, people talk about the transformative possibilities of AI. On the other hand, people talk about some of the concerns, particularly with regards to ethical issues. So, being an expert in this subject, I would really like to pick your brain on this.
So certainly, this is a big challenge. The fact that there are many causes for why bias may arise in AI solutions, and there are ethical challenges. Our data are biased. Our societal structures may be biased. And that's just the way we are. And we don't want AI solutions to perpetuate that bias and create more ethical challenges.
Yeah.
So what can we do? The first, of course, is that we want to make sure whatever solutions we create today, we test in the field to make sure. So for example, in the case of the Arman solution that I mentioned, we test thoroughly to make sure that based on the socio-demographic features of different beneficiaries, age and education and income and so forth, that we were not disproportionately allocating resources to more highly educated, or even though these are all marginalized communities, that even within that we weren't giving resources to less educated or less income people. I should point out that this work was done with Google and in India,
Okay.
and but we thoroughly tested for this. So testing, auditing solutions, very important. So that's number one. Number two is that we need to educate our students and our people who are going to be deploying these solutions in ethics. At Harvard, for example, in every computer science course, certainly in every AI course, there is an embedded ethics component. So basically, a team of ethics researchers, philosophy professors, and so forth, they will teach a module in the class that focuses on ethics. Obviously, it doesn't give people a ready-made solution, but at least we can use that research in improving the kinds of solutions that we provide.
Yeah, my follow-up question to this would be, Professor Tambe, would be that when you are leveraging AI to bring about social impact, there could be possibilities of unintended consequences which you had not anticipated. I mean, while trying to do good, which obviously is the motivation, there could be scenarios or instances where you faced challenges with regards to ethical issues, or you encountered some unintended not so good consequences. So did you encounter any such eventuality or scenario in your work, and how do you plan to mitigate these kind of issues?
This is a very important question. So we have, for example, worked at Harvard with drones, for trying to locate where poachers may be seen in the national park. So using infrared, if you're able to find a person who's in a national park where they're not supposed to be,
Right.
that's a hint to the rangers that maybe there's some poaching going on. These kinds of techniques, these kinds of technologies could potentially be used for other harmful purposes. Obviously, this is once we start developing a technique for good, for example, trying to find poachers, maybe it could be used for some other nefarious purpose potentially. We don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I think this is a very, very important and legitimate concern. I think given the potential for such misuse, we want to make sure that we ourselves do everything possible to engage in the most ethical deployment possible, really engage in very responsible, deployment. Again, like I said, engage in these deep partnerships with nonprofits or with government agencies. But it's something where we need to really be on the guard to make sure that the solutions that we develop are not immediately are not being used for some other purpose. I mean, but it is a important challenge, and it's something that we all need to be very vigilant about in terms of being able to try to protect. But that, as you can imagine, at the same time, given the huge positive potential for the use of AI in benefiting society, we want to continue to develop these tools so that the positive impacts do continue.
Yes, yeah, certainly. Yeah. So my final query to you, Professor Tambe, is what are some of the future trends or some of the innovation that excites you the most in your work in bringing about positive social impact? Because technology is evolving every day, and AI, as we all know, is going to change the landscape in every sector. So any innovation or future trend that you would like to talk about, which is exciting you the most?
I mean, I'm certainly very excited about the tremendous optimism. I mean, I have tremendous optimism for how AI can be very beneficial for society. I understand all of the concerns that we've just discussed and all of that, but still I feel there's so much benefit that we can draw from AI, not only in the areas that I've engaged in public health and conservation, public safety, but also, like we discussed, education, agriculture, and so many other areas. Speaking particularly about the situation in India, obviously there's a vast amount of talent in AI. There's so much potential that AI can be used for benefit. I mean, also in industry, I mean, for example, software industry, I mean, India is very well positioned to be able to use AI to improve software productivity. India has a huge digital infrastructure. Like we discussed, a lot of cell phones that are used throughout. So this mobile phone infrastructure. So with all of that, there's so much that can be done. So I think the main point really I'm very excited about also is potential for research investments. I mean, for example, in here in the United States, the National Science Foundation has been funding a lot of AI institutes to sort of move forward AI research. And I'm very much looking forward to all that we can do with these new technologies and the new research that will come out.
Well, I wish you all the best, Professor Tambe, and the work that you and your team are doing in addressing some of the most pressing challenges. I wish you the very best. Thank you so much for interacting with me, and I'm sure our audience would gain a lot from the valuable insights that you have said. Thank you, Professor Tambe.
But thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being invited. It's a great honor, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
To watch more programs of Sunset TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.